Masechet Gittin daf Pe Zayin, nu Mishnah. Shenaim sheshalchu shene Gittin shavin v'nit arevu. Noten shenehem lazo ushnehem lazo. If you had two men married to, each are married to their separate wives, but they happen to all have the same name. Both couples have the same names, and both of them are divorcing their wives. So they wrote the Gittin correctly. Each husband commissioned the scribe, can you write a get for my wife? This is my name, her name, and same the other guy did the same. And then they sent them with a messenger, and they both sent them with the same messenger. And so here, so they sent two Gittin that are the same, and the messenger on the way mixed them up, and he couldn't tell the difference between them since they have the same names. So now he gets there and he wants to give the right one to the right woman, but he doesn't know who they are. So easy solution: give both Gittin to one woman and take them back, and then give both Gittin to the other woman. And that way, no matter which one belonged to this and which one belonged to that, since they're both receiving both of them, that's fine. Lefichach avad echad mehem harei hasheni batel. However, if one of them got lost and we only have one of them, well, then that's a problem because we don't know if this was meant for woman A or woman B. So if he would give it to, he can give it to both of them, but then we wouldn't know which one it was meant for. So one of them is divorced, one of them is not divorced, and then they're going to be in safek, so they still will not be able to get remarried, and therefore it's not that it's batel. The one that he has is a good get, and if you could figure out who it belongs to, then it will be fine. But since we don't know who it belongs to, so you can give it, but it will not allow the person to remarry, and therefore we call it void. That's one case. Next case: Chamisha shekatvu kelal betoch haget. איש פלוני מגרש פלונית ופלוני פלונית והעדים מלמטה כולן כשרים ויינתן לכל אחת ואחת. So another case where you have a get that you give to more than one woman, not because there's two and that they're the same, but rather this is a get that includes 5 different couples in it. A mass divorce. There's also mass marriages where they have multiple marriages in one ceremony when they go down the line. So you can have it on the other end too. So you have 5 people that wrote all together a klal in one general wording. We're going to analyze this word klal. To what is it referring to? And they say this person A is divorcing woman B, and man C is divorcing woman D, and so on. 5 different couples, and then you have one set of witnesses on the bottom. All of them are fine. Just that man A would have to give it to his wife, and the other husband would have to give it to his wife. So you have to keep taking it back. Hey, can I have that back? And then give it again. But as long as it's given to each of the wives by each of their husbands, the language in the get is fine. So this is called the klal, has a common language. That's okay. היה כותב תופס לכל אחד ואחד והעדים מלמטה, את שהעדים נקרין עמו כשר. However, if you have tofes is the common language that's present in all Gittin, as opposed to the toref, which is the particular language that has this person's name and that person's name. So if you have a tofes, and it's repeated for each and every one of the couples, so you have a couple, first couple, and then a tofes, another couple, and then a tofes. That is, and then if witnesses only at the bottom, so only the last ones mentioned are valid. Because there you have their names, the tofes, and the witnesses, and that the bottom one, it's evident that the witnesses are testifying about the last case. So the last case is a valid get, but it's not clear if the witnesses are testifying about the previous cases, and therefore it's no good. So if you have a common language, right, where it's clear that that all 5 are using the same language, and there's only one common language of divorce, then the witnesses on the bottom, it's clear that they're referring to all 5 of them. But if you're repeating the language each time, then it's not clear, and only the last one mentioned is valid. Okay, the Gemara is going to have 2 different opinions about what exactly kelal refers to and what tofes refers to. But first, we analyze the opening case, man tana, who is the tana that says you can have 2 Gittin written about the same with the same names, and you could just take both of them and the messenger will give both of them to woman A and both of them to woman B. Whose opinion is that? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, de lo Rabbi Elazar, de Rabbi Elazar, kevan damar ade mesira karte, ha la yadai behem inayhu ha kamigarisha. Bimia says this is not Rabbi Elazar. It has to be the opinion of Rabbi Meir that says the edim that are signed in the document, they're the most important ones. That's the other opinion, not Rabbi Elazar, Rabbanan, and the ones that sign the document. So each document was written correctly, right? This first husband went to the scribe, write it for me. He wrote it for him. The other guy also wrote it for him. So since the witnesses were signed on a proper document lishma, so then the fact that it's given over without knowing which one's which would be fine according to Rabbanan. So it could be Rabbanan, but it cannot be Rabbi Elazar because he says that the witnesses signed in the document are not necessary even. Rather, it's the witnesses that see it being transferred. And he's assuming here that it has to be lishma. They have to know that this get that's being given from the husband, or in this case from the messenger to her, is lishma. This is the one that's for her sake. And in this case, since he's giving them two of them, and he doesn't know which one is which, and which one's lishma, and which one's not lishma, so we're lacking lishma, and this would be a problem. So it can't be that our Mishnah is opinion of Rabbi Elazar. But Abaye Amar, afilu tema Rabbi Elazar. Ema de ba'e Rabbi Elazar kitiva lishma nitina lishma mi ba'e. Well, it could even be Rabbi Elazar, right? Rabbi Elazar requires that it be written lishma. Even if there's no signatures, he doesn't require signatures. Still, even Rabbi Elazar would agree that the writing of the get has to be for the sake of this particular woman. And let's assume that it was, and only afterwards they got mixed up. But Rabbi Elazar doesn't say that the giving has to be lishma. The giving has to be in front of witnesses. That's what effectuates the divorce. But it does not have to be lishma. So it's okay. The messenger will give two of them, and whichever one was the right one, that will take effect. That's okay. Chamisha shekatvu kelal v'chule. Hechidami kelal, hechidami tofes. So we have a first case in which you have a kalal, a one general wording, then you can have five sets of couples and the witness, and they're all valid. But if you have a separate tofes for each one, then it's no good. Okay, what is the kalal referring to? What is tofes referring to? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Zeman echad echulan zehu kelal. Zeman echol echad ve'echad zehu tofes. Rabbi Yochanan says we're going to pay attention to the date. If there's one date for all of them, on this date, it's the beginning of the language of the get. On this date, so-and-so, divorce is so-and-so, right? And you list the couples. As long as there's one date, one intro, that's called one kalal, and then that's valid for all five. But if you have a separate date for each one, right? On this date, couple A get divorced each other. And then you have on this date, couple B divorces each other. So then the dates are separating each clause, and therefore we only know that the last of the last ones mentioned, the witnesses are going on those. But the ones before are separated by the date, and therefore they do not count. That's Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Resh Lakish amar afilu zaman echad lechulan na mehave tofes. Rabbi Lakish is more lenient, and he says you can even have a separate date for each one of them. That would be okay. Hela hechidami kelal dekatav anu peloni upelonit gerashnu neshotenu pelonit uflonit. Rather, Resh Lakish requires that when you list the names, you have to put all the names of the husbands in a row. They divorce, and then put all the names of the wives in a row. What you cannot have is just husband, wife, because those are then separated. You have to put them all together. You have all the husbands, and then they divorce all the wives. So then it's clear if the witnesses are signing, they see, oh, these are all five. There's no way you can separate the last couple from the rest of them, because they're all grouped together. And so even if you have separate dates, that's fine as long as you have a grouping at the top. Right? The idea is you'd have the grouping of the names at the top, and then you could have separate sections after that with date and say again the name of the couple, as we'll see in a second. Okay, matkif la Rabbi Abba la Rabbi Yochanan. We're going to challenge Rabbi Yochanan. Damar zeman echad lechulan zeu kelal. ולחוש דילמה כי חתמו שדה, הבטרה הוא דחתימה. מילה תניא עדים חתומים על שאלת שלום בגט פסול, חשינן שמא על שאלת שלום חתמו. So we have a problem because Rabbi Abba challenges, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who said that the time, if there's one date for all of them, that's good. Where he said that's good. Wait, why don't we worry that the witnesses at the bottom are only have in mind the last ones? After all, we have a braita that says if you have witnesses that signed on the bottom of a get, but after the text of the get, there's a greeting, right? It says greetings to so and so, and then they signed after that. That get is pasul because we're worried maybe the witnesses they saw greetings to Mr. So and so. Oh yeah, we want to write that. We want to send that greeting. They signed their names, right? Greetings, happy birthday. And they didn't have in mind the rest of the document. So that's a challenge to the Yochanan because so you're not grouping the names all together like a Shakish, but rather, so you have a date. Fine, you have a date, but then the names are listed all separately. So isn't that a problem? How do we know that the witnesses aren't only on the last part? Lavit Allah, the answer is, what didn't we say about that braita when we analyzed it? Rabbi Abu says, Rabbi Yochanan explained that braita to me. And he said, Sha'alu pasul, you're right. If it says in the document, Sha'alu, then it's no good. Visha'alu kasher. In other words, in the document it says, it has a text of a get, and then it says, these people say, send their greetings to you as a new sentence, then it's no good because they might be going just on that sentence. But if you have the word and these people send their greetings, well, since you have the word and, that's clearly connecting those greetings with what came before, and therefore when the witnesses sign, they're signing not only the greeting, but also the section that came before, that's connected by a vav. So, peloni ufloni ufloni. Here also, if for Rabbi Yochanan, we have to assume that when they list the names, although they're doing husband, wife, you have to put an and between each couple. So this husband is divorcing his wife, and second husband is divorcing second wife, and third husband. And since you have an and between all of them, that way it's clear that the signatures at the end are referring to all 5 couples, just like if you had a greeting at the end, but it started with and, that would include the document that comes beforehand. Okay, vetu leRabbi Yochanan, damar zeman lechol echad vezehu tofes, מה ידיעה משום תופס, וטיפוק לדבר נכתב ביום ונחתם בלילה. Now, Rabbi Yochanan, he said that you have to have one date. If you have many dates, then it's no good. We're assuming right now that the many dates are different dates. It says, on Monday, this person says you can divorce that person. On Tuesday, the second couple. So we ask, why are you saying that's no good? Because that's called a tofes. That's a standard formula, and that's separating each one. Even without that reason, it would be no good because here you have a get that's written in the day and signed at night. It doesn't have to be necessarily night, day, and night. The point is, there's a general law that a get has to be written and signed on the same day. If it's written during the day and then sunset comes and signed at night, that's 2 different halachic days, and that's no good. And so here, if you have only one set of signatures, and so if any of those ones before are a different date, right, a day before, 2 days, a month, week before, any other date, it's not going to be good because the signatures are on, it's signed on one day, and part of it was written on a different day. So it automatically be no good for that reason. Besides that, this is called the tofetz, that's separating the sections. אמר לאמור קשישה ברד רב חיסדא לרב אשי, הכי אמרינן משמד רבי יוחנן, תכתבהו באחד בשבה, באחד בשבה. So we answer, no, this is what they say in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that all the dates are the same day. They're all Sunday, for example, right? On Sunday, couple A is divorcing. On Sunday also, couple B is divorcing. In that case, so they're all the same day. So there's no problem of it being written and signed on different days. They're all being written and signed on the same day. And that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. In such a case, the only problem would be that the date is repeated. And the date being repeated separates each couple. And then the witnesses would seem to only go on the last one. All right, that finishes this challenges against Rabbi Yochanan. Now against Resh Lakish. Amar leRavina leRav Asher. LeResh Lakish damar zaman echad lechulan name tofes haveh. So according to Resh Lakish, he says you can have the date after each one, and that's fine. Hechida mikelau dichtibe hachi anu peloni ufloni gerashnu neshotenu pelonit upelonit nimseu sheten nashim mitkarshot beget echad v'atorah amra v'chatab laha ve'lo la ve'la berta. Ravina asked Rav Asher, according to Resh Lakish, who said that even having one date for everybody is still called tofes as a separation. So how do you have a kalal? How do you have to put them together? You have to write all the husbands will divorce and then list all the names of the wives. Well, in that case, we're going to run into a different problem that you're not allowed to have divorce two women with one get, right? You have to have separate documents. Now, it could be on one piece of paper, but it has to be separated. You can't just say, we, all husbands, divorce our wives, list all the wives. That's not a valid get because the Torah says, v'chatav la ve'lo la ve'la haverta. Each husband has to write a get for his wife and not for this wife and another wife. Each divorce has to have its own get, its own at least section, and you can't put all the names of husbands together, all the wives of the husbands together. You have to have them separated. So what is Resh Lakish going to do with that? The answer is, as I mentioned before, katav peloni geresh pelonit ufloni geresh peloni. That after you have the collective formula, all the husbands divorce and list all the wives, after that, you have to write, and the first husband divorces, name of the first wife, and the second husband is going to divorce the second wife, so you have to list them separately as well. You need to list them separately because of vechatavla, but you also have to write them collectively because of the klal, in order to make sure that's verified that the witnesses apply to all of this collective of all five couples together. Amar leRavina leRav Asher, umay shena mehadetanya, הכותב כל נכסיו לשני עבדיו, קנו ומשחררין זה את זה. So now we bring in a tangent. If indeed the laws of get for a wife are similar to the laws of a get that you give to a slave to free a slave. So if in fact you need a separate get for each woman, separate formula for each woman, then what about for avadim? We have a braita that says if someone writes all of my property, I want to give to my two avadim. Now these two avadim are also part of his property. So how does it work? So it works. They acquire the property and their emancipation by freeing each other, right? Since each slave, whenever a slave acquires something, he's only acquiring it for the master. So he can't acquire for himself, but he can acquire for someone else. So slave A acquires all the property. Slave A, that includes that slave A now owns slave B. So he has a right to say, oh, slave B, my friend, you are emancipated. And slave B could do the same for slave A, and that all happens simultaneously. So this works. Now we're assuming that this is all written in one shtad. The owner writes, everything I have are given to my two avadim. And even though it's not separate formulas, how come we don't say that's a problem? You can clump them together in one formula. And the answer is, we already discussed that braita, and we decided it has to be two separate documents. He has to give one document to slave A, I give you all my property, and the other document to slave B, I give you all my property. Only then does it work. Slave A acquires all the property, including slave B, so he has a right to say, you are free, and vice versa. And that's how it works. But you're right, you really could not have two people in one get. Tanya kivateh Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, now that we finish the challenges to Rabbi Yochanan and the challenges to Resh Lakish. Now we have a braita that supports Rabbi Yochanan. Tanya kivateh Resh Lakish, and another one that supports Resh Lakish. Tanya kivateh Rabbi Yochanan. Hamisha shekatvu betoch haget. Ish peloni megaresh pelonit ufeloni. Pelonit ufloni pelonit. So notice that you have five couples and you have a vav in between. This husband divorces his wife and the second husband divorces his wife, and so on. Uzman echad lechulam, and you have one date for all of them. You start with one date and don't repeat any more dates. With witnesses in the bottom, kulam kesherim v'tinaten lechol achat ve'achat. They're all good, and each husband will give it to his respective wife, give it back, give it to the next wife, and they're all valid. Zeman lechol echad ve'achad edim lemata et shadim nikrim imo kasher. But if you repeat a date and put a date between each couple, then the top four are no good. Only the bottom ones that are directly before the witnesses, only that one is kasher. That's Tanakama. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betara Omer, im yesh revach benehen pasul, im lav kasher she'en zeman mafsikan. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betara disagrees slightly. He brings in a new topic of if you have space between each paragraph, then that's no good. So even if you have no dates or anything, just space between each one, then it's not clear that the witnesses at the bottom are applied to everyone, and so then it's no good. But if not, if there's no space, then that's okay. And according to Yehuda ben Betara, he doesn't mind if you repeat the date in each one. As long as no space between them, you can even repeat the date. That's not according to Rabbi Yochanan, but the Tanakama does support Rabbi Yochanan. So that's why we brought that baraita, even though now we have yet another opinion here. Okay. Tanya kevate deresh lakish hamisha shekatvu kelal betoch haget. Anu pelonu floni gerashnu neshotenu pelonit uplonit. Peloni geresh pelonit, peloni geresh pelonit. So here's how you have to have the names according to this baraita says, which supports the Lakish. You have 5 couples. First, you have to have the collective. All 5 husbands divorce all 5 of these women. And then you also have to write them individually. The first husband divorces his wife. The second husband divorces his wife. Put all their names. So that's the first thing you need. The names doubled. And then uzman echad lechulan v'adim lemata, and you also have to have one date for all of them, and the witnesses at the bottom. That's good. Kulan kesherim v'tanaten lechol achat ve'achat. Then it's valid, and you have to give it to each and every one, as long as you give it to each and every one. Okay, I just assumed that you need both to have the collective names and also only one date. The Gemara in the second is going to ask about this and reading this as an either or. Maybe you just need just collective or the date, and then it's going to challenge that and conclude that no, you actually need and. We'll get there in a minute. Zeman lechol echad ve'echad v'revach lechol echad ve'echad v'adim milimata et shadim nikrenim mo kasher. However, if you have dates for each one separated and space between them and the witnesses at the bottom, so only the bottom one is good because that they're directly after the last one. But you have a date and space, so that will be no good. Sounds like date and space will make it no good. Rabbi Meir Omer, Af al pi she'en revach benehem pasul she'azman mafsikan. Rabbi Meir says, even if there's no space and they're all connected one after the other, just having a date is going to make them no good. So the date by itself makes it invalid. Okay, that's the end of the Braita. Now, so clearly the first opinion here accords with Resh Lakish. We ask, Resh Lakish, Ma yidya zeman lechol echad ve'echad, ha'amar zeman echad lechulan, name tofes haveh. How come Resh Lakish said over here, zeman echad lechulan, right? What does it matter if it has zeman echad lechulan? He already said that just having one date for all of them is not good enough. That's still considered a tofes, a formula for each and every one of them, unless you put the collective, all 5 husbands, all 5 wives. So we're reading this as an either or, and it's okay to have either all 5 names together, husbands together, or you could have one date, and that would be good enough. But Resh Lakish in his word said it's not good enough to have just a one date. So we answer, Hanemi lehecha de la arbin hu meikara, aval hacha de arbin hu meikara, ipalig lehu zeman in ila la. No, when he's saying that you have to have one date, that it's no good. Here, the second part really. The second part where you have separate dates, when is that no good? Only when you didn't put the names all together at the beginning. But as long as you put all the names together at the beginning, then if you separated the times Indeed, it would be only the last one would be good, as it says here. But if not, if you put the times together, then it would then not this second clause, but rather the first clause. So, in other words, as long as you put the names all together, then you at the beginning, then if you also have one date, it's good. But if you don't do that, even if you put all the names together, but you have a separate date time for each one, then only the last one will be good. So that's the meaning of this. The first paragraph says you need both of them, and the second paragraph is saying, well, if you don't have the time, if the time is repeated, then only the last one will be good. So that clarifies the opinion of Resh Lakish. Next Mishnah, שני גיטין שכתבן זה בסד זה, ושניים עדים עברים באים מתחת זה לתחת זה, ושניים עדים יוונים באים מתחת זה לתחת זה. עת שהעדים הראשונים נקראים עמו כשר. You have two gittin written on the same paper, side by side. One get is over here, and the second get, different man, different woman, is over here. That's totally fine, right? Two separate gittin. Now, the problem is that the witnesses on the bottom are a bit mixed up. You have two edim writing in Hebrew that are immediately under one of them. So just like here, you have Reuben ben Yaakov, and you have a second name, Shimon ben Yaakov. Not related, not the same Yaakov. Two Hebrew ones right under it, and then you have two Greek signatures right under them. Not like this picture with Shashi says, but more like Rambam, where you have here Simonos Ios Yosepos, Simon, son of Joseph or Josephus. So you have writing in Greek. So the first case is not like this picture, but rather you have Reuben ben Yaakov, Yitzchak ben Abraham, two Hebrew ones, and after that two English ones. But you see how they're spread across both columns. So you have Reuben, his first name is here, his father's name is on this column, right? So you have Reuben Yitzchak, and then Yaakov Abraham over here. And after that you have two Greek names, but the Greek names go the other way, with the first name here and the father's name here. First name here and father's name there. Okay, so what would be the status of this case? The get that has the first names of the witnesses under it, that one is valid, the other one is not valid. So let's say we have here under this get says Reuben ben Yaakov, and imagine immediately under that said Yitzchak ben Abraham. So that will be the first names. The first two signatures are the Hebrew ones that go from right to left, and therefore the right hand get is valid, whereas the left hand get is not valid, and the Gemara will explain because it seems clear that it's not clear that the second signatures are in fact for that get. Maybe the second signatures are written out of order. Okay, we'll get to that. So in that case, when you have two Hebrew and then two Greek, only the one on the right will be valid. If it's flipped around, let's say you had two Greek signatures and then two Hebrew signatures, that means the one on the left will be valid because you have the Greek signature starts on the left, first name, father's name, first name, father's name. It's clear that those at least are going on the left. It's not clear if the ones after that are going on the right or the left, and so only the left hand get would be valid in that case. All right, next paragraph. Ed echad ibri ve'ed echad yevani. Ed echad ibri ve'ed echad yevani ba'in mitachat zeh latachat zeh shenehem pesulin. If you have exactly like we have in this diagram, where you have one signing in Hebrew and then one in Greek, another one in Hebrew, and then the last one in Greek, both of them are invalid because you have. Fine, you have one witness. Again, we start at the beginning, so if it's in Hebrew, it'll be the right-hand name. We'll go with the right-hand get. So certainly you have one witness for the right-hand get, but then the next one, well, what is that for? Is that for the left-hand get? Not clear which one is for which. If you have two Hebrew ones, it's clear those are both for the right. But if you mix them up, then we don't know, are these for the right, for the left? We don't have two for each in a clear way, and therefore both are valid. Okay, now we ask, V'lit kashar hai beruven v'hai beben Yaakov ed, teha tenan ben ish peloni ed kasher. Why not say the one on the right is valid because it says Reuben, and the one on the left will be valid as Ben Yaakov, Ed. Usually, when you have put the name of the witness, after that, either he writes or it's already written in there, Ayed, he is a witness. So the Baraita says, the Mishnah actually says, if you write your name as your first name, that's fine. If you write your name as Ben Ish Ploni, you don't write your first name, you only write the son of and you write the father's name. That's fine. That's valid as a full name. And so therefore, if we get a get like this, why don't we assume here, Reuven is the witness for this one, Ben Yaakov is the witness for the one on the left, and therefore both Gittin will be good. If you have two Hebrew signatures on one line, you have a Hebrew signature on one line, another one in the second line, so you can parse that as 4 different signatures. The answer is, you're right. If it was written that way, we could. But we're talking about a case here, Dechatav Reuven ben Akama veYaakov Ayed Abatra. It's written as it is in this diagram. Reuven ben is all written on the right column. So since Ben is here, it's clear that that goes together, and Reuven ben is not a name. It's Reuven ben Yaakov. There's only one signature here, so that could only apply to one get. The one on the right leaves the one on the left without anything. Okay, v'lit kashar hai be Reuven ben, v'lit kashar hai be Yaakov Ayed. Tahatenan ish peloni Ayed kasher. Wait, so still, why not say it's okay? Reuven ben, so Reuven, the son of, and you left off the father's name, right? Leave that. That's fine as one name, and the other side will say Yaakov Ed. Yaakov, we can presume that's his name, a name of a different person, because after all, the Mishnah says if a person just writes his first name, Ish Peloni Ed, that's kasher. So see, we don't really know who actually signed this, but all we have is we have the get. And so why not assume that Reuben signed the right one, Yaakov signed the left one, and so we can validate both of them. And the answer is 2 answers. Tela katav ayed. Maybe he didn't write the word ayed, and that's why it's no good, because you have to write the word ayed. Avi bait ema leolam techatav ayed udiadinan beha chatima delav Yaakov hu. Or maybe he did write ed, but we recognize the signature that this is not Yaakov's signature, right? We recognize it. This is Reuven's signature, so it's clear he wrote Reuven ben Yaakov, and so that's why it doesn't count. If in fact it was a separate person named Yaakov, and we can validate that the person named Yaakov is the one that signed it, it looks like a signature, then yeah, it'll be fine. But here, it's where we know that Yaakov did not sign that. Well, maybe he's signing as his father's name, right? Since even though his name is Reuven, but sometimes he wants to sign his father's name, right? Maybe you could have such a thing. And it says, no, a person is not going to leave off his own first name and only write his father's name. But if you want to write both, you write Reuven ben Yaakov. Okay, very nice. But to only write your father's name, no one does that. Where maybe he used his father's name not as a name but as a symbol, because many rabbis use symbols instead of names. Rav Sayad Kavra, Rav Chanina Charuta, Rav Chesta Samich, Rav Hoshaya Ayin, Rav Huna Sayer Machota. Rav would draw a fish instead of signing his name. He drew a fish because he was so famous, signed many things. That was his signature picture. If you saw a fish, you know, oh, that's Rav's signature. Rav Chanina would draw a day palm. Rav Chista Samich, because that's Sami has Samich in his name. Ho Sha'aya, I guess a prominent letter in his name is the Ayin. He would put an Ayin. Ravuna would put a sail. Maybe he liked sailing. And so you can have a symbol instead of a name. And so maybe this guy Reuven, he used his father's name as a symbol. And therefore both Gittim could be good. You have Reuven and then Yaakov, and that Yaakov is a symbol of Reuven, but really it's a separate signature of Reuven. And we answer, La chasifinish l'shavuye lishma de'abu simana. No, a person would not be so brazen to use his father's name as a symbol. That would be a degrading way to use his father's name as a symbol, and so therefore people do not do that, and that explains why we say only the get on the right is valid, because it's clear that this is only one signature and it starts on the right column, so therefore it applies only to the right hand get. Next question. V'litashad hai b'shnei aidim ivrim. V'litashad hai b'shnei aidim yevanim. Hold on. If you have 2 Hebrew and then 2 Greek, why not say the 2 Hebrew ones, since they start on the right column, are applied to the right-hand one? And then they get on the 2 Greek signatures that start on the left-hand column, they will apply to the get on the left, and both of them will be valid. Ditnan, get shekatavo ivrit ve'edav yevanit, yevanav ve'edav ivrit kasher. We're about to see in the next Mishnah that if you write a get in Hebrew and the witness is signed in Greek, or you write the get in Greek and the witness is signed in Hebrew, it's fine. You're allowed to sign in Greek, so that's not the problem. And therefore, why not apply the Hebrew ones to the right side and the Greek ones to the left side? And maybe you'll say, oh, that's not good because there are 2 lines in between, right? You have the text of the get, and then you have 2 Hebrew lines that don't apply to that get on the left, and only then you have the witnesses, and it's no good. You have 2 empty lines, and that's what makes it invalid. Chizkiah said, you're right, if there's empty space, it's no good, because then someone might come and add in some things. It's like putting on the check. If you put, $200, and you don't put a line through it, someone can come and add $200,000, right? So that you can't have empty space in the get. But Chizkiah says, if you add in signatures of relative, just nonsense, disqualified signatures, just as space fillers, then that's fine. So certainly here, it's not relatives, whoever it is, it's witnesses for the other get. Doesn't matter. It's space filler, and there's not, as long as no empty space, it's okay to put the witnesses, the valid witnesses, 2 lines down. Therefore, we should say both Gittim are good and count the Greek ones for the left-hand side. And we answer, you're right. In fact, Ze'iri says both Gittim are valid. You have a get on the right, a get on the left, 2 Hebrew signatures, those go for the right. 2 Greek signatures after that, they start in the left-hand column, those are for the left. And really, it is fine. So your question is so good. We admit, you're right, it's good. But our Mishnah that said, no, only the one on the right is good if it's Hebrew first. Only the one on the left is good if the Greek ones are first. Why? Dilma gundalim hatim vechulu achat hu dehatimi. Because maybe they're signing in reverse, meaning in reverse order of the natural language, as follows. Let's say, imagine, this is Reuben ben Yaakov, second line Yitzhak ben Avraham. The next line, we're not sure, maybe they're writing in Greek order, and here, first name, son of last name, or maybe they wants to copy the Hebrew that comes above. And so even though he's writing in Greek letters, but he's changing the word order to be reverse. And he's writing his first name, Yosipon, and then son of, and then Simonos. So it's actually is right justified, starting on the right-hand column, even though he's writing in Greek, he's writing first name, son of, father's name, and all 4 signatures are actually for the right. So since it's not clear if the last 2 signatures are in fact in Greek order from left to right and apply to the left, or if they are in Hebrew order and start from the right, even though it's written in Greek, and therefore only apply to the one on the right, since it's not clear, that's why the Mishnah says only the get on the right is valid and not the one on the left. Okay, next, ed echad ivri ve'ed echad yevani. If it goes right, left, Hebrew, Greek, then both Gittin are invalid. We ask, Vili tachshar hai be'ed echad ivri ve'ed echad yevani. V'hai be'ed echad ivri ve'ed echad yevani. Tehatenan ed echad ivri ve'ed echad yevani kasher. So why not say that both of them are valid? The one on the right was valid with 1 Hebrew and 1 Greek signature. And the one on the left is valid with 1 Hebrew signature and 1 Greek signature. So why not just say here, there's 2 here, that's for that, there's 2 here, that's for that. Why assume that it's not good? That's the question. And the answer is, Hatane Ze'iri shenem kesherim. In fact, Ze'iri said that they are both good. He's okay with splitting the 1 Hebrew and 1 Greek for 1 Hebrew and Greek for the other. As it says in the Mishnah, after all, next Mishnah, that you can have 1 in Hebrew and 1 in Greek, so that's okay. But our Tana Didan Dilma Gundalim Hatim Utlata Achad Vechad Achad. But our Tana says, we don't know. Maybe he's writing it in reverse. And maybe, in fact, 3 signatures are for one of them. Let's say the one on the right. He writes in Hebrew, starting from the right. The next one that's in Greek, maybe he's actually putting his first name on the right, even though he's writing in Greek, copying the word order of the sentence before. And the third one, Hebrew, is also to the right. So the right one is good, but maybe there's only one that starts from the left as applies to the left, and one witness is invalid. And so since we can't tell if the last 2 apply exclusively to this one or to that one, in this case, it's Hebrew, Greek. We don't know which ones apply to the right, which ones apply to the left. It's not clear if either one has 2 valid witnesses that are meant only for there. And therefore, both are invalid according to the Mishnah. All right, next Mishnah. Shier miksata get uchtavo bedaf hasheni ve'adim milemata kasher. If you left out part of the get, right, you fill up a whole page, and there's no room on the page, and then you write it in a second column. It's on the same page. It has to be on the same page. You finish one column, you go to the second column, and you finish writing it there. And the witnesses are on the bottom of the second column. That's fine. You can write in 2 columns. Chatmu edim berosh hadaf min asad o min acharav beget pashut pasul. If the witnesses sign at the top of the page, or on the side, in the side margin, or on the back of the document, assuming it's a regular get, not a folded get. In a folded get, since it goes back and forth, that's a whole different system. But a regular get that's just a page, you have to sign at the bottom, front of it. You can't sign on the sides, not on the top, and not on the back. If you write 2 Gittin on one page, but you write them as follows, you write, it's head to head. You write one like this, Beshlishi Betevet, and the other one, the head is also towards the middle of the page, Beshlishi Betevet, right? So that, and it continues down. The other one continues to the top, upside down. And then the witnesses sign in the middle, right here, between the 2. So can you count these witnesses for the top one and for the bottom one? The answer is no, because here it's at the top of it, and here they're upside down and at the top of it. So in that case, it's totally no good. Shenehem pesulim. However, sofo shel zeh besad sofo shel zeh, v'adim ba'emsa, et shadim nikrin imo kasher. If you have one after another, you have one get over here, and it's the end of it comes to the middle of the page, and not exactly like this picture. This picture is actually the next case. But let's say this one is also flipped around, so that's end to end. The end of this get ends in the middle, and the end of the second get is written upside down and ends over here, and you have the 2 witnesses in the middle. So here you might say, well, the 2 witnesses are at the end of the first get and also at the end of the second get. But the Mishnah says, no, only one of them is good. That one, the one that is written from the right side up. Or if the witnesses are upside down, then turn the whole thing upside down, then the one on the bottom, which will then be on top, will be right side up. Okay, the point is that the one that's in the same direction as the get, that one is valid. The one that starts upside down compared to those witnesses is no good. Okay, that's the second case. Third case, Rosho shel zeh besad sofo shel zeh v'adim ba'emsa, et shadim nikrim besofo kasher. And similarly, in this case, where you have one get that's written in order and the ends here, then 2 witnesses, and then another one that starts here. And so here you may say, well, maybe this is better because they're all written in the same orientation, but still no good. Because it's good for this top one because it's fine. It's all in the same orientation and it ends with the witnesses. But the next one, the witnesses are on top of it. And the witnesses cannot be on top. They have to be on the bottom. And therefore, only one of those is valid and not the other. All right, good. Get shekatavo ibrit ve'edav yivanit, yivanit ve'edav ibrit. If you wrote to get in Hebrew, even if it's signed in Greek. Or you wrote it in Greek and it's signed in Hebrew. Fine. If you write one witness signs in Hebrew, one in Greek, also good. Ketab sofer ve'aed kasher. We quoted this yesterday. If the scribe himself wrote it and you have one witness, that's also valid as if it was 2 witnesses. Next, ish peloni ayed kasher. A person could write just his own first name and the word ayed. Ben ish peloni ayed kasher. Or he could write only his father's name, the son of, and he writes his father's name, ayed. That's also fine. Ish peloni ben ish peloni v'lo katav ayed kasher. Or if he writes his first name, son of, and his father's name, and he doesn't write ayed, that's also good. And in fact, the scrupulous people of Jerusalem that didn't want to waste extra words, just be concise, they would even leave out the word ayed, and that's okay. Katav chanichato vechanichata kasher. This is now talking about the husband and the wife. If instead of writing their official names and their father's official name, you write just their nickname, that is still a fine. All right, Gemara asks, "V'leichush dilma haneteregite havu v'itrameh le zeman dekama ve'adim debatra ve'gaziel zman debatra ve'adim dekama." We're talking about the first case where you have. This is what the first case looks like in the Mishnah. You have the beginning of the get here, bechamishi be'achad. It continues down this column and down, and if you run out of room, that's okay. Go down the second column, and then ends with the witnesses here. Right? So we said that's valid. But now we question that. How do you know all this is part of one get? Maybe originally there was a bigger piece of parchment and it had one get that started further down, starts here, ends with witnesses. A second get on the other column starts above it and ends here. And then someone came and cut off the top and cut off the bottom so that it looks like this is all part of one get. But actually it's a mix and match of two different Gittin. So how do you know that you didn't cut it? Okay, good question. Amar bi abarav kesheyesh revach milemata. Oh, there's space at the bottom of it. Right? See how there's space at the bottom? So here there's space at the bottom, and since there's space at the bottom, over here is more important. There's space here, so it's clear that there's no continuity below it. So therefore, it must be that the continuation of this is not down below, but rather in the next column. So that's a proof that it's all one. All right, sounds like a good answer. Wait a second, but maybe he cut out the date of the second one. And originally, this one stopped here, and he stopped in the middle. Whatever, he forgot about it. He decided not to continue and go through with this get. And then a new get was started over here, and someone cut off the top, right? So even if there's space on the bottom, still it could be that this originally belonged to one get, and this had a previous section that was part of a different get than this one. And the answer is we're going to copy the same answer that we just said. He said that there's space below, and we'll copy the same idea as his answer and say there's space above. So you see over here, there's extra space above. Since there's space above, we know that this was not part of a longer get that extended upwards over here. But since there's space below and space above, so it's clear that this goes right into the next one. Okay, well, hold on. Why don't we worry that maybe he wrote this much and then stopped? Because he didn't continue. There's space there. So he didn't continue because he changed his mind. He says, you know what? I don't want to give a get. And thereby nullifying this writing. And then he changed his mind again and said, okay, fine, I'll start, and started again on a new column and continued writing the get. But the first half is invalid because he had changed his mind already. So, and therefore, this should not be good. So the answer is, he wrote the main phrase, the most important phrase, hare'at, he wrote down here. Muteret, he wrote up here. So it's clear, that's all one phrase, one continuous phrase. And so if you wrote that all together, that connects the bottom of this to the top of that and shows that there was no break and he did not change his mind in the middle. Or maybe he did. Maybe he said, hare'at, and he changed his mind. Cancel that. And then he went and continued writing it. No, I don't have to be concerned to such a degree. That would be very unusual. Mid-phrase, most significant phrase, he decides to cancel it and then change his mind again. Okay, you don't have to worry ad infinitum. All right, all that is one explanation, but now we have a much shorter explanation, answer to all of the questions above. Rav Ashi Amar, di'a be metachta dimgileta. Where it's clear, this Mishnah is talking about where it's clear that the stretch of the scroll. And as you can tell, just from the shape, the texture of the scroll, that nothing was cut off, not on the top and not on the bottom. So since there's no cuts at all, so it's clear that this is a continuation of what comes before, and therefore you don't have to worry about that there was a continuation here, or a part of it above, or stopped in the middle. All those questions are resolved by knowing that this originally was all one parchment without any cuts. Baruch Adonai leolam, amen ve'amen.